Rise Up and Run. Stories of deliverance and transformation through the power of Jesus Christ that allows people to rise up from bondage and run in freedom. I'm your host, Janice. Welcome back to another episode of Rise Up and Run. It is such a good day for me because I have such a sweet soul sitting across the table from me, someone that I've known for a really long time, and just I'm very much admiring where she is and what she's done with her life, what she's allowed God to do with her life. So, as you may or may not know, I was a probation officer for 100 years, and my guest today is Felicia Carter, and she is one of the huge success stories that I've been able to witness, and she's crying already, you guys. And we got the Kleenex ready because this is just a beautiful story, So we are both, I'm 60 and she's right behind me, and we figured out that we knew each other when we were 26 and 27.
Yep.
And we thought we just knew everything. We knew what was going on in this world. And she has overcome an addiction, and now she has her, correct me if I'm wrong, master's degree, 4 kids. She was a single mom for a lot of that time. Yeah. She's running a transitional program for women coming out of prison. And what is your title at the substance abuse agency?
I am a program manager of a peer recovery coach.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So I talked right over her, but this is Felicia Carter, and I'm so honored to have you with me.
I am so honored to be here.
We've been talking about this for a while, and
yes.
I finally got my claws in her and got her over to my house. But we've been sitting here for at least a half hour just catching up, and kind of forgot we needed to do a podcast today, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. So if you just want to share, wherever you want to start. Wherever you want to start would be great, and I'll jump in with questions as needed.
First of all, I have to say that there was a village that raised me and my siblings. My mom had us in church from the early age of, as early as I can remember, until I turned 17. And then once I turned 17, I thought that what she was telling me about the streets of Waterloo, I could conquer them by myself. So, went to college, got pregnant with my first son, moved home, and I was introduced to a drug that in 3 years changed me into a person that I didn't want to be. I was deceitful, I was dishonest, I was manipulating, and I ended up stealing my kid's father's credit card, and he pressed charges on me.
Were you guys married at that time?
No.
No? Were you divorced at that time?
We hadn't gotten married at that time.
But you did eventually get married.
We got married when I had 3 years clean, and then we were legally separated afterwards. Okay. Because I was on a journey of self-discovery and realized that let me say this right because I respect him, God bless his soul, he couldn't stand up and tell his mom that he loved me. So I signed a prenuptial agreement 2.5 hours before I got married, and after I got married, I realized that if I continued to stay in that relationship, that I would probably continue using drugs. So got out of that relationship. But I want to back up because I was saying that, my mom raised us around going to church all the time, which gave me a foundation of an introduction to, to the God that I know today, but not in that such manner, because she introduced me to a punitive God. God's going to get you if you don't do that. God is going to get you. God is going to get you. And so when I got clean and I had my children, and she would say that thing, and she would say that to them about going to church, I was like, Mom, don't tell them that, because that ain't the God that we serve. That ain't the God that I was introduced to. And I was introduced to the God that I serve today through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. And I might be jumping around the place, but so if you need some clarity, please ask me.
I'll
to
jump in
stop.
if I need to.
Okay,
more
so
explanation.
when I went to treatment, I was introduced to the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. They came and brought the message, right? And the message that I heard is that you don't have to use even if you want to. You don't have to use no matter what. That became the message that I heard, right? Because I experienced a lot of no matter what's in my life. One, growing up without a father, the youngest of 7. My mom having a 6th grade education, not being able to provide. There was times when I came home and the electricity was off or the water got shut off. So that no matter what became something that motivated me, because it's like, if I don't have to use no matter what, then I don't have to make an excuse to use. I just have to learn how to live life and ask for help, right? So there was this older white lady with long blonde hair that became my sponsor. And I told her, I said, I don't know if I want to believe in God because he's punitive. And she said, well, just believe in good orderly direction or the gift of desperation. And I believe that it was the gift of desperation.
I love that.
That got me to surrender. I had to surrender. I had to surrender that there was something greater than me. Even though, I had this punitive concept of God, I knew that I had to surrender my life, my will over to something greater than me. At the time, I didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. So I followed this lady's good orderly direction. And what she told me was, and she was probably 20 years older than me, and she said, baby, I am going to teach you about the disease of addiction and the recovery process. So how I went to treatment is because I stole my boyfriend's credit card to supply my drug habit. I had a friend that was selling drugs. And so I would go buy her stuff that I got from Walmart or whatever store.
Like that you stole from Walmart?
That I stole. And in exchange, she would give me whatever the drugs, that I think I would probably give me $50 or give me $100 and here you go. And so he finally caught on that I stole his credit card and he pressed charges on me.
And that's why we met?
And that's why we met. The best thing that he could have done, I went through pretrial release. I went to a pretrial investigation and they found that, I had some college and I had, some work experience behind me, and I had one charge, and that was me and him fighting. And so I think we caught a domestic charge. He was leaving to go out, and I wanted to go get my drugs, and I told him I was coming back, but because I never always came back, he was like, no, you won't come back. And I swore I was, right? But it never happened because we got into an altercation. He went to the hospital because I threw an ashtray and hitting a glass ashtray, and he had to get stitches. So the police came back and arrested me. And so that was the only charge that I ever had, besides when he pressed charges for using his, let me call this a spade, for stealing his credit card. So
did he know? Were you admitting that? Yeah, I'm using. So she was using crack. I don't think we mentioned.
I was using crack. I was using marijuana laced with crack.
Oh, okay.
They call them Mac and Balls or Primos.
Primos, okay.
Primos, yep. Mac and Balls or Primos.
And so did Derek know that you were using, or were you just kind of lying?
He really didn't. He may have had a clue, but he really didn't know. But remember, I was pregnant with my daughter when I was using, and so he didn't know because he worked a lot of hours, and it wasn't like I was using every day, all day. And I had a small circle of people that I used with, a cousin, a good friend, a guy that my cousin introduced me to that worked with her. And so when we got together and we used over at her house, and she didn't get addicted. When everything was going, she would put us out. When we were sitting there trying to figure out ways and means to get more, she's like, all right, I got to go to work in the morning. Goodbye. Just put us out. It was like, how can you just stop and not,
Wow.
how can you stop and not just want more? How do that happen? But, later on I learned that, some people, and it is crazy because we're first cousin. We came, two mother sisters. And so she never developed the physical aspect of that I know of. So to make a long story short, Derek came home one day and said, "You've been using my credit cards. I got to press charges on you." And at the time, it was the end of the road where I could no longer function. With or without drugs, right? Mm-hmm. I had to face this dilemma. Either go on to the bitter ends, jail's institution or death, or find a new way to live. And so I went to treatment, and like I said, I heard that message, and I was ready. I was 6 months pregnant. I was weighing 120 pounds.
Wow.
6 months pregnant when I went into treatment, and I remember the day that they came and arrested me because they were kind enough to do it on my mom's day off. They came and got me early in the morning, and I think I got booked where I had to do it's hard putting your finger on the yeah. And after that, I sat in the holding cell until I got pretrial release, and that's when I believe I met you. And I was with you for a whole year.
Is that all? It seems like it was longer than that.
It was a whole year. But this is the thing. Every time I celebrated, I think up to 10 years, I would bring you a card by your office, and thank you for believing in me.
I always tell people, you either remember folks you supervised because they were an absolute nightmare or because they were just the best, and you were definitely just the best. I know meeting with you was like hanging out with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
We've always clicked.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning, and you had so much goodness in you. And you were I just enjoyed you. I still enjoy you.
Yeah.
Very much.
I enjoy you too.
So so your daughter's, can I say your daughter's name?
Yeah, Daisha.
So Daisha was a product of
yes,
almost an entire pregnancy of addiction, and she was not affected by that.
Daisha was not addicted.
Praise God.
Yes.
Wow.
They tested her, and she used drug while, there was some important things developing, like her eyelashes and her eyebrows and the ears and the lips. So when she came out, this is by the doctor's surprise. He was like, "I told you needed to gain weight, but I didn't tell you to gain 60 pounds. From 6 months, I gained 60 pounds. 6 months pregnant, 120 pounds. When I had Daisha, I was at 180 pounds. That's 60 pounds, right? Yeah, I was.
So because when you were using crack, you weren't eating?
No, I wasn't eating like that.
And you made up for lost time.
I made up for it. And so he was like, "I told you to gain weight, but I didn't tell you." And she came out weighing 7 pounds, 13 ounces.
That is a good sized baby.
Just a bundle of joy. She wasn't physically addicted to drugs, and she had all her parts. I made sure I counted toes and
Those
ears.
eyelashes don't come in for a while, so you probably had to wait.
Yes,
You
right.
don't see them for a while.
Yeah. So, so that was the best thing that he could have did, because never being in the judicial system, it woke me up. It was like I never experienced this before. Even though you let me go with people from NA to different events, that was something I wasn't used to doing. Having people tell me when I can go, what time I had to be home, what time. So that was an eye-opener for me. I love to be, I don't like authority.
But you liked me.
But I liked you. But I already knew in my heart, because it's like hearing other people share their story and treatment. It was like I was blessed to have been raised by a mother that was strict, that made us go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, whenever there was revivals, and didn't allow me, like, I used to have friends that mom used to let boyfriends spend the night at 13, 14. My mom, a boy couldn't even honk. She was like, you better not go to that door. You better let him come and knock. So
Go mama.
I remember at the age of 17, and it was Dacia's and them dad, I decided that I wanted to go with him to a wedding. Saw my mom, because my mom never drove, so she walked everywhere. I was in the car. At the time, there wasn't no counsel, so I was all underneath him. And you know what? I got spanked that night. I got whooped. They say kids need to be seen, not heard, right? So there were some questions I had about my father, about a lot of things. And so when my mom did her dirt, I never seen a man in her bed.
What do you mean your mom did her dirt?
When she went and did her dirt, whatever it was, and we asked her where she was going, she said, I'm going to see the turtle take the water. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10
What was
years
your
old.
mom's name?
Louise Horton.
Louise? We're going to have a talk about Louise. Oh,
She went to see the turtle take the water. So you know how you, like, what you mean you went to see the turtle take the water? What that means?
And when you were old enough to find out, you were like,
So guess what she told me, what it meant when
What?
I got old enough? None of your business. That's what the turtle take the water meant. None of your business.
I was thinking it meant something else.
Nope. But that was her going to do her dirt. So I never seen a man in my mom's bed. I asked my mom when I got in recovery, like, why you didn't date a man? And I have 2 older sisters. And she said, because if they would have touched you or your sisters, I would have killed them. So she sacrificed having a relationship with a man because she loved us. And so when I get old enough and I ask her about the way she raised us, because it was strict and restrictive, I appreciate it. Once I got in recovery, growing up, I was like, she just the meanest mom. I can't wait. I hope you die. You know, all those little things that we say as kids. And because we had to be seen, not heard, we wasn't able to ask those questions. And then I took it because I'm not responsible how I was raised, but I am responsible as an adult to fix me. I'm not responsible how I'm programmed as a child, but as an adult, I'm responsible for fixing me. And so there were some questions when I got to the 4th step in the program to help me see the side of my street in me and my mom's relationship. And it was because I wasn't to be heard but seen, I couldn't ask her those questions. Along my journey in recovery, there hasn't been living life on life's terms that I had to turn to the spiritual principles of acceptance and patience and kindness and perseverance and humility, and accept it is what it is, and there's no reason ever to go back and pick up a drug that destroyed my life.
So you said earlier that you started using at 17.
No,
How old?
I started experimenting with weed when I was like 15 years old, right? The first time I smoked weed, we smoked sage going to school.
Okay.
Me and my friends smoked sage going to school and declared we was high. We wasn't high. So I smoked weed from 15 until the age of 23. And my cousin's boyfriend, we was sitting outside the bar, and he said, "Hey, do y'all got some marijuana? I got something to put on it." And from the age of 23 to 26, I never smoked another regular marijuana cigarette. It was always laced with crack cocaine.
And that grabbed onto you and
that
wouldn't let go.
And it didn't let go until I cried out. And I asked God, it's like, you know what? That's when I asked God for help. I was like, Lord, please help me. And
you know what I think was interesting is that you said Derek got you arrested.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, "Oh, that's awful. He shouldn't have done that." But I love that you maintain that was what saved your life.
Yeah, that's the best thing that he could have ever done for me.
Yeah.
Because I did not know the road of destruction. I did not know that the disease, along with the drug use, could take me down such a deep path. Just like that. Just like that, when I was introduced to my drug of choice, that I call it, would change my thinking, my way of thinking, that allow me to do some things that I never would have imagined. Stealing his credit card, not going to work. Well, I wasn't able. I was unemployable. Not able to consistently go to work. Thank God my kids were at a younger age where they don't remember. Like, Daisha definitely don't remember. And then the one after her really don't. I have a 24-year-old. He's never seen me and my addiction. Darrell was probably 2 years old. And then Dayron was 6. He don't even remember, because at the time that I started, when he was that age, it was like my mom was watching him, because I would run over my cousin's house. Thank God I was never in a trap house. We called it a crack house back then.
Yeah.
But I never was I never sold my body. I never did the things that degraded myself in my own eyes, except steal from their dad and I would say my kids and my mom. When they said that you don't have to use no matter what, I believed that. I wanted that. I wanted a different life than what I was creating for myself.
So how did you go about it? I mean, for the person right now that's thinking like, I want that, I want a different life. You know, I think, you know, you hear about somebody where they were and now you see where they are now. It's like, what goes on like between there and there?
A lot of hardships along the way that you just have to, like, life on life's terms. So because I wasn't raised in that lifestyle, it was like the comparison was night or day. Like, this is what you're going to get. Homelessness, you're going to have to live on the streets, you're going to have to prostitute your body, or you're going to have to abide by somebody's rules or whatever, self-regulate your own self.
And what looked attractive about that?
Probably their dad. I wanted to get back with their dad, and I did, but then, like I said, when I signed that prenuptial agreement 2.5 hours before I got married, I realized that the recovery process is not about staying in a situation that you would regret. So we got married, but we got divorced. We got separated 6 months after we got married.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
6 months.
And how old were you when you got married?
I got clean at 26. So I think I was 27, 26, 28 when I got married.
And then you got separated.
Then I got separated. So that legal separation went on until 1998.
I feel like you were still really close with them, and you still, I mean, just seeing on Facebook the Thanksgiving together, and I know, I get the impression, true or not, I don't know, that you still really loved him up until he passed away.
I still to this day really love that man, and because Derek and my kids was really close, and because I didn't have a father growing up, I wasn't going to be that bitter woman and be like, nope, you can't see my kids, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it was like I learned how to co-parent with him, and I had to be the one that took the lead on it, because when we got divorced, he was very upset. I had 7 years clean when we got divorced. There was some bitterness. He wouldn't watch the kids. Like he wanted, so many weeks and in the summer and every other weekend, and he didn't do it. But I learned how to navigate anyway. This is why I went back to school, to supplement my income, because he was very bitter. He wouldn't pay the child support. And so I found myself feeling like if I don't do something, me and my kids are going to be at the brink of getting put out of the house that I moved into. And so it was just always putting one foot in front of the other and not giving up. It was like, I believe that God, the footprints in the sand, I know, and still today, that God carries me, especially when I feel low at heart. He comes and swoops me up and lets me know that I'm his and that he has me. And there's times when I was in the fetal position, crying out to God, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I need your help. And, I do that still today. When I was writing this grant, I was like, I need your strength, and I need your clarity, and let the words come smoothly on the paper. And so I always cry out to God, because it's like, I know I can't do it without him. And when I try, that's when things feel like a burden, overwhelming. And so it's like I have to remember, he is there for me. He is the one that is going to give me the strength. He's going to be my provider. He's going to be my protector. He's going to be my heavenly father. He's going to be my dad. He's going to be all that I need him to be, at the time that I need him to be it. And so it's like, I used to ball up, but then it was like, but I had a support system that was like, I remember this guy telling me, you should go back to school. So I went back to school to supplement my income, and I got an AA degree. And it felt so good that I went on to get my bachelor's, and I went on to get my master's. So I was able to supplement my income. So I didn't have to be like calling his dad and begging and pleading. So I had to learn how to co-parent with Derek. And I had to take some parenting classes to bring parenting classes back to the Cedar Valley, but those gave me the skills to not even just teach the class, but to utilize them in my own upbringing of my kids.
Yeah, sure.
And so that is pretty much like how things just develop. Me not giving up and knowing that the drug use isn't the answer. And then also having loving people in my life. So the lady that introduced me to the recovery process died in 2008. So I found another sponsor that, guided me until, my lenses became blurred again, and then I asked somebody else to sponsor me so that way, I can get a spark, because I know that whatever I went through, somebody is going to go through it, and I'll be like, this is how I did it.
That's exactly.
This is how I did it. Yeah.
Someone said once, recover out loud.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people who I know from, my past and their past, and they're almost ashamed, but I'm just like, no, you have to shout it out. So people that are still in that pit know that there's a way out.
Yeah.
That's exactly why we go through the trial, so we can comfort other people as we've been comforted.
Yeah. How I started, like, the ministries that I have is in my step work in 6 and 7, I believe it says, what do your future look like? And so it's like, I always wanted to give them what my mom gave me, because before I got out of treatment, my mom said, you're going to go to the meetings. I don't know what they're going to do for you, but you're going to go to the meetings. You're going to pay rent. You're going to help keep the house clean. And there's a 0 tolerance. And so for that whole year, it was like, I did those things that she did. She just started getting on my nerves about God gonna get you. So it's like, I have to move out and, provide a loving home and introduce my kids to a loving God, so that the way they know that whatever they do, he already knows it. So you might as well just tell him and turn to him when you're in need, or just turn to him, period. Just have a relationship with him, period. So my mom started coming down with dementia like 12 years. I think it was 2008 maybe. I had to give my time because she was my loudest cheerleader when I got clean, because she was my only cheerleader. She was the only one that believed in, because she had prayed. She told me her knees was scarred up from praying so much when I was out there.
And there's something about a mom and their prayers that God takes it real serious.
Yeah, and so I was able to, for the last 12 years, be her caretaker. At the last moments, I was there when she took her last breath, and I didn't shed tears because I seen her suffering for the last 12 years. My mom was very, very independent woman. She was very proud, and so when we had to move her, I tried to give her the best years of her life. It just became tiring because I'm working, and her dementia, it got stronger. So when she put the stove, the pot on the stove, she would forget it. And so it was like I became exhausted. I didn't have a lot of help. My kids did what they could. I'm the youngest of 7, and I have to learn how to mend some relationships with my sisters that promised me that they would come every other weekend and give me a break, and it never happened. So today I still have a distance relationship with them because I have forgiven them, but I haven't restored the relationship with them. And I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but it keeps me peaceful. I believe that God got me clean for different points in my life where I could reach and help people. And so the last 12 years of my mom's life, it was reaching out and helping her, giving her the dignity to live in her own place. I put her in a elderly nursing home for the last 2 months of her life, and she didn't. She was always talking about going home, and the nurse told me she's not talking about going back to her house. She's talking about going home and live with her maker. But she called me her best friend, and those 12 years was an indirect amend to my mom for all the worrying I put her through, all the nights that she couldn't sleep, all the prayers. It was like I gave her what she asked for and more. I was patient with her. I didn't fuss at her. Even if I came and poop was all over the place, I cleaned it, and I changed her clothes, and I washed them, and I tried to get over there every day to take her a bath. And the earlier I got over there, the earlier she said she already took a bath.
Did she though?
No, she didn't. But there was times she would let me, and she would say, "Oh, that feels so good," and then she would talk about her body parts and say, "That's how you gonna get when you get 89." So she died at the early age of 89 with so much spunk. The nurses from the nursing home called me one night and said, "Do you mind if we put a bracelet on her? Because she don't know she has dementia, and she's so sharp that other people might not know, and somebody might come in here and ask her if she want to ride home, and then she say yes." So it's been I just think that there's times when God, I look back and say, God got me clean to have the maturity to do this, and God got me clean to have the maturity to do this. Now, I said that this has always been my dream, right? To pour in women what my mom poured in me. I didn't do this. I didn't open up the Women's Reentry Center until she died in January 2018. God was preparing me. He was maturing me. He was putting stuff in me that I needed and was taking things out of me that I didn't need. Because I don't know at 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, if I was equipped to handle somebody calling me out my name. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't mature enough to be like, that is not your business what people think of you. That's their stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it was like he just it fell right into my hands, Janice. When my mom died, I called Quayerdale and said, hey, my family don't have a big enough spot. Can we use this cottage, to receive families and friends? And they said, yes. So we painted walls, we cleaned the carpet, we went and bought sheets for the twin size bed. So the majority of my brothers and sisters lived with me at that center, and we poured so much love into it that my one sister that lived in California, she didn't go home until December 23rd. Her husband was like, are you coming home for and that's when I told him what my dream was and he was like, here you go, you can have it. Now you're going to pay some rent down the line. But it just fell in my lap.
Wow.
After me telling him what it was hard for me to leave. It was like we poured so much love in there. It was so hard. And then when I just said, this is my dream, to give back to women what my mom poured into me, he was like, there you go.
Now, how many women live at the
So
house?
at one time, 9 women can live there.
Okay.
So I went on a sabbatical. So from December until April, there was only 2 women living there. It's a zero tolerance. A couple of them went back out in use and didn't come back. And then some moved out successfully into their own place. The rate of people moving out successfully and staying clean is 85%. And so in April, somebody moved in on Monday and had alcohol in her room on Friday, and she was asked to leave. And then another young lady moved in June, and she started dating someone that was a criminal, that was smoking weed. And I told her, if you don't tell your PO, I am. And she was like, I ain't telling my PO. She don't need to know my business. I said, well, she gonna know your business from me, because ain't nobody gonna say, well, Felicia knew.
And she lets them.
And yeah. And so then she told me, she said, and I don't like people telling me what to do. And I said, well, you know what? You can pack your bags and go.
Then you're not at the right place.
Yeah. And so,
Oh, no.
yeah. So a lot of women in prison, when I talk to them on the phone or give them an interview, oh, yeah, I'm ready to put forth the effort. And they're
Yeah.
not.
They're ready to get out of prison and have
That's
a place
it.
to stay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, I know within 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
the spirit tells me they're not. So when are you going to sit down and talk to them? And I asked them now, do you have an alternative location to go to? Because this is the way it's done. And if you don't want to get with the program, then you're going to be asked to leave. So you might want to really think about this before you say you want to come here.
You got to have a plan B.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this is a little out of order, but before we started recording, you were talking about something, and I was like, oh, we got to repeat that for the podcast. But you were talking about, I don't even remember
The disease
words
of comparison?
Yes. And so just start back at that. We don't have to go through all the 12 steps, but
all right.
Start there, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, so like I said, this older lady, I asked her to become my sponsor, and she told me, she said, I'm going to introduce you to the disease concept and the recovery process. And then as I start peeling that layer, because my first 12 set of steps was about my drug use. And then as I start peeling that onion, the more I worked the 12 steps and go back to what does the disease and how it manifests. Well, I learned that as a child, like my disease didn't start when I used, right? That the disease of comparison started when I was a child, and I was comparing my insights, the way I felt, to what I saw. And I saw parents, 2-parent homes, and they looked like they were happy. Mm-hmm. And I'm inside suffering because I want what they had. Mm-hmm. So I thought, until I got old enough to realize that their home life wasn't as happy as mine, or it wasn't happy, and I couldn't compare it. But we all had some things that we were dealing with, and because children need to be seen, not heard, we didn't talk about what was going on in our household. If we would have, things probably would have been different for all of us, because the shame stopped us from sharing. I used to have to lie. They'd be like, "Where's your dad?" "Oh, he's a truck driver, and he comes in on Friday and leaves on Saturday morning." That never happened. Mm-hmm. But that's what I thought I had to cover up. And so I have layers and layers of things that I have to reveal about myself in this healing process. And so the 12 steps just help me with a person that is loving and has more knowledge of it than I do, to walk with me in this journey and reveal things about myself. And the first step is the only step about the disease of addiction. The second step is coming to believe that a power greater than yourself, right? It says a power. It's not introducing God until the third step, because God wants us to see that there's people that can help us. There's tangible evidence that our crooked life becomes straight, right? First, I had to believe in the power before the third step says come to believe that a higher power. So power and a higher power. So there's powers in my life, but the highest power is God, right? So I had to believe in these people. And then it was like this tangible evidence. And then it's like, okay, so here's a God that I can't visibly see, but I didn't heard. So it's like it helps me to like turn my will and my life over to the care of Him, and to that. For me, that means that I have to learn how to communicate. I have to learn how to listen to Him, and how exactly am I going to turn my will and my life over to the care? Like He cares for me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So how am I going to let Him care? By not trying to control things. Yeah. And then 4 through 11, just helping you have a spiritual awakening. Like, because in every step there are some spiritual principles, it wakes your spirit up, because we did when we're in that darkness. Yeah. And so having people share messages, it deposited stuff that makes my spirit, like some nights when I come home from a meeting and the message is so good, it's like I can't even go to bed. It's almost, it's what I feel at church, the Holy Spirit, right? Yeah. It's like I want more and more and more, and it's like, so my brains are just wiring off, they're firing off, and but my spirit comes alive. You know, and it's like having had a spiritual awakening as a result of this step, we try to carry this message to addict, right? And to practice these principles in all our affairs. So my recovery is my whole life. It ain't like, you know, my recovery is my whole life, in every aspect of my life. And it has nothing to do, like in our literature, it says addiction has nothing to do with the drugs we use or where we come from. When I start reading stuff like that, I have to come like, well, where did it come from? Well, what happened? So it has to do with my obsessive and compulsive thoughts. So this is what I share in a meeting. Like, I love peppermint patties, Yorks.
I'll remember that.
And Lay's potato chips, right?
What flavor of Lay's?
The regular kind.
Oh, what?
One is too many, 1,000 never enough. I can sit there and eat one, and then it'd be like, and then by the time I eat the 10th one, it'd be like, it don't even taste like the first one. So why you continue to eat? Because the compulsion has taken over. I think it's gonna be so good, and I'm gonna eat only 5, and then I'd be like, okay, 5 at a setting, and by the end of the night, that bag is gone. So still in my life, The disease concept is that one is too many, 1,000 never nothing. And I have to be vigilant and do something for my recovery every day, like deposit some spiritual principles so I can live a purpose-filled life.
Yeah.
That I'm not hearing all those negative thoughts, that most thoughts are positive thoughts. Because, because there's on days I can say, you're so ugly and fat. And then there's days when I'm like, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so kind, you're so precious, you love by God. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like I have to, I think all of us go through that. And so it's like, in order for me to feel better and do better, I have to deposit something, Bible. Me and this girl at the facility watched The Chosen. Now my daughter is watching it, and so we talk about it. And she said, Mom, she said, and I think it was in Matthew, she was reading a different version. She said, do you know somebody, the angel told was it Mary Magdalene, that asked who, and the angel said the stone been rolled away, and he's like, where's Jesus, right?
Okay.
And then she said, because I think, all through The Chosen, he showed a side of himself, like some humor and some seriousness. Yeah. And he was a little radical too sometimes, right? And so he said, greetings. She's like he didn't get, like he just didn't get nailed on the cross. He talking about greetings.
Like, hey, what's up?
Right, like I told, but he told y'all what it was gonna happen, and so we've just been talking about, and I told her my favorite character was Matthew, so I've read Matthew a lot because of his, what he, wrote down and reported, and she's like, I like all of them. She's like, they didn't even realize that they were, even though they followed him, they didn't realize the magnitude of, he loved them anyway. And he would get so frustrated with them because they didn't understand their assignment, right? Until they did. It was just funny that, we're ordinary people, and he has us to do the most, what is it? Unordinary. He picked the most unordinary people to do his work. And there's a book says, many are called and few are chosen. And it's like, I think all of us are called, but who are going to choose to do what he assigns us to do? Because, 20% of us are doing 80% of the work. And 80,
that's what they say.
Yeah. And so it's like, and I get mad at him sometimes because I'll be like, because I'm turning 60, and I have a couple relationships, and some of them were meaningful and lasted long. And it's like, I didn't lay down my life for you. Can you bring a man to help me, to support me, to rub my back, to be your human,
Be your companion.
Yeah. Friend. And so that's another podcast, but
yes, it is.
So I'm just, I'm glad that you called me, and I was going to call and say, Jan, I don't feel like it.
No, you weren't.
But I'm
glad. Because
I
just said tough.
Because I'm glad.
As your PO.
Yeah. I'm glad that I did, because, you always want to look back from time to time and see where you came from. Yeah. So I can give him all the praise and the glory, because it was all about him. And then he allowed me to, I feel so, I still brag. I was like, me and my PO, look, we friends.
We friends.
Yeah,
You have something about you, though, Felicia, that is, you're so friendly. She's like a beacon or a pillar in the church. She's very well respected by both the men and the women. And you are a champion for people that are fighting, because you've gone through that. You put your light out, and you don't hide it under a bushel.
No, I don't.
I just admire you tremendously. I love you.
I love you and admire you too.
I just can't get enough of you.
I know. Now I know where you live.
Oh, great. Now
there's
you're gonna
some
come over all the time.
Have coffee.
Oh,
Yes.
do it.
I love
would do it.
coffee.
Well, and I just want to brag on you as a mom. 4 incredible kids. And one of them used to work at the gym that I worked out at. And when I found out it was her son, I was like, he is fabulous. So
Yeah.
friendly, so welcoming.
Yeah.
So your kids have turned out just like you.
Yeah.
You've raised some great kids by
Thank
yourself.
you. Mm-hmm.
And, well, with Derek's help too. But to know like where you used to be and the power that crack had over you,
Mm-hmm.
and now here you are in the power that Jesus has over you.
Yes.
There is no comparison.
Yeah.
You are just an amazing woman.
Thank you.
And humble and godly. You just give God all the praise and all the glory.
He deserves it.
Doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And won't he do it?
Yes, he will.
Oh, girl, let me just pray. Let me
Okay,
pray.
yes.
Oh, sweet Lord.
Yes,
What a
Mother.
blessing and an honor it is to sit here with Felicia, who crossed paths with me 30 some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Just to have a ringside seat to see what you've been doing in her life is amazing, and it's such an honor. God, continue to do that in people's lives and addicts' lives, and just help this podcast, this message that Felicia shared, to show them what you can do
Yes,
with a willing spirit, with someone who's willing to trust you and to lean on you and to follow you. She's not headed easy, God, but she has triumphed only through your grace and
Yes,
through your power, and she will be the first to say that. She takes no credit for herself.
Yes,
She wants to
Lord.
give all the glory to you, as you should have that. Let this message be a light to people to just see what you can do with a life that's devoted to you. God, thank you so very much for this time with my sweet friend.
Yes.
Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back with another one soon.
Yay.